The impossible world. The massive survey vessel Astral Seeker drifted silently at the edge of the uncharted solar system, its array of sensors extended like delicate antennae probing the darkness. Chief Xenobiologist Xerix stood motionless in the primary observation deck, all four of his eyes fixed on the holographic display showing readings from the third planet orbiting an unremarkable yellow star. "Run the atmospheric analysis again," Xerix ordered, his scaled fingers tapping against the console. His cranial frills flared with agitation as he studied the results. "Analysis complete," responded the ship's eye in its measured tone. Results remain consistent with previous scans. The planet's atmosphere contains significant levels of corrosive oxygen, nitrogen, and various toxic compounds. Professor Nyleth, the ship's geological specialist, glided across the deck on her hovering platform, her crystalline form refracting light in patterns that express deep concern. "These tectonic readings are beyond belief," she said, manipulating the holographic display. "The entire planetary crust is fractured into moving plates. The planet is literally tearing itself apart and rebuilding continuously." Xerix nodded grimly. "And the gravity readings are equally alarming, -9.8 meters per second squared, nearly twice what most spacefaring species evolved in." He paused as more data streamed across the display. "Temperature variations are extreme too, from below freezing to scorching in the same regions depending on rotation cycle." The senior research team gathered around the main display, each specialist adding observations to the growing list of impossible conditions. The blue-green world rotating slowly on the screen defied everything they knew about habitable environments. "According to our classification system," Nyleth said, her voice resonating through her crystalline structure, "this would rate beyond Class 12. Nothing could possibly survive there." "Computer, activate long-range optical scanners," Xerix commanded. The image of the planet filled the main screen. Swirling white clouds covered much of its surface, revealing glimpses of blue and green beneath. Lightning storms raged across entire continents, while massive cyclonic systems churned across vast oceans. "Look at the water content," exclaimed junior researcher Plex, their gelatinous form quivering with excitement. "Most of the surface is covered in liquid water. Not just any water, salt water. A corrosive soup of minerals that would dissolve most spacefaring species on contact." The ship's AI interrupted their discussion. "Chief Xerix, I've completed full planetary analysis. This world ranks as a Class 14 on the habitability scale. This exceeds all known parameters for sustainable life." A stunned silence fell over the research team. No one had ever encountered anything beyond Class 12 before. The very concept of a Class 14 Deathworld existed only in theoretical models. Xerix began recording his official log. Research date 74-20-93. "We have encountered what appears to be the most hostile, potentially habitable planet ever discovered. The combination of high gravity, extreme temperatures, toxic atmosphere, and geological instability should make this world completely impossible for any form of advanced life." He paused, looking at the beautiful but deadly world spinning slowly on the main screen. "We are designating this as the first confirmed Class 14 Deathworld. The very existence of such a planet will require us to revise our understanding of planetary formation and the limits of survivable conditions." Nyleth approached him, her crystalline appendages glinting with excitement despite her concern. "Should we launch probe satellites for closer observation?" "Negative," Xerix replied firmly. "The atmospheric conditions would destroy our standard probes. We'll need to design special hardened versions just to survive entering the upper atmosphere." He turned to address the entire team. "For now, we maintain a safe distance and continue passive observation. No one is to approach within 1 orbital unit of this death trap until we fully understand what we're dealing with." As the research team dispersed to their stations, Xerix remained at the viewport, staring at the swirling storms visible on the planet's surface. Something about this world nagged at him, a feeling he couldn't quite place. In all his years of planetary survey work, he'd never encountered anything like it. 3 cycles later, Junior Analyst Tulax burst onto the observation deck, his tentacles writhing with excitement. Chief Xerix, we've detected energy signatures. What kind of energy signatures? Xerix asked, immediately leaving his meal station. Artificial ones. Radio waves, microwave transmissions, and what appears to be primitive fusion technology. Xerix's frills extended fully in shock. That's impossible. Nothing could evolve intelligence in those conditions. The entire senior research team gathered at the primary sensor array as Tulax displayed his findings. The evidence was unmistakable. Organized energy patterns that could only come from technology. We're detecting thousands of artificial satellites in orbit, Nylith reported, her voice vibrating with disbelief. And what appears to be primitive space stations. There are cities, whispered Plex, manipulating the long-range scanners. Massive urban centers spread across all continents. Xerix stood in stunned silence, watching as the impossible became undeniable. Begin preparations for contact protocols, he finally ordered, and notify the Galactic Survey Council immediately. We've discovered intelligent life on a Class 14 Deathworld. The next several cycles were a flurry of activity as the Astral Seeker prepared for first contact. The ship's linguists worked feverishly to decode the multitude of transmissions emanating from the planet, while engineers designed a specially reinforced shuttle that might survive the deadly conditions. We've cracked their primary communication methods, announced senior linguist Vexer. They use thousands of different language systems, but we've identified several dominant ones. We should be able to communicate effectively. And what have we learned about them? Asked Xerix. They call themselves humans, Vexer replied. And they call their planet Earth. They appear to be carbon-based bipeds with internal calcium-based support structures. And Chief Xerix, they breathe oxygen. The corrosive gas is essential to their metabolism. A collective gasp filled the deck. The very atmosphere that would kill most species in the galaxy was life-giving to these creatures. Prepare a first contact message, Xerix ordered. Standard galactic greeting protocols, translated into their most widespread languages, transmit on their common frequencies. Hours later, as the crew waited anxiously, their communication array lit up with a response. They're responding in multiple languages, Vexer reported excitedly. And they're requesting visual contact. Xerix straightened his ceremonial robe. Establish visual link. The main screen flickered to life, revealing a pink-skinned biped with sparse fur concentrated on the top of its head. It wore what appeared to be ceremonial garments and sat in what must be a command center of some kind. Greetings, visitors from the stars, the creature said, its words translated by the ship's computer. I am Dr. Elena Kaminsky, Secretary General of the United Earth Council. On behalf of humanity, I welcome you to our solar system. Xerix stepped forward, performing the traditional greeting gesture of his species. I am Chief Xenobiologist Xerix of the Galactic Survey Vessel Astral Seeker. We are surprised to find intelligent life on your world. The human's face contorted in what the computer identified as an expression of amusement. May I ask why that surprises you, Chief Xerix? Your planet, Xerix replied carefully. The conditions on your world are extreme. We classify Earth as a Class 14 Deathworld. By our understanding, advanced life should not be possible there. Dr. Kaminsky's expression changed again. Deathworld. I suppose that's a matter of perspective. To us, it's simply home. Would you be willing to meet in person? Xerix asked tentatively. We would need to construct special environmental suits to survive your conditions. Of course, the human replied with another facial expression. Though you might find it simpler if we came to you. Our species has adapted to various environments and pressures. With some minor accommodations, we should be able to visit your vessel without difficulty. Xerix's frills fluttered in disbelief. These creatures could survive not only their hellish homeworld, but potentially adapt to other environments as well. "We would be honored," he managed to reply, wondering what other impossibilities these humans would reveal. 2 days later, the research team watched in astonishment as a small Earth vessel docked with the Astral Seeker. The specially prepared reception chamber had been adjusted to what their data suggested would be tolerable conditions for the humans. The airlock cycled, and 3 humans entered, wearing only thin protective suits rather than the full environmental rigs the scientists had expected. They removed their helmets with casual ease, taking experimental breaths. "A bit thin," commented one of them, a female with dark skin and curly black hair, "but perfectly breathable." "Thank you for your consideration." Xerix couldn't believe what he was seeing. These fragile-looking beings had evolved on the most hostile world ever discovered and were now standing in their reception chamber, smiling and breathing as if they weren't performing the impossible. "Welcome aboard the Astral Seeker," he said, performing the formal greeting. "I am Chief Xerix." "Ambassador Maya Chen," replied the female who had spoken first. "And these are my colleagues, Dr. Alejandro Rodriguez and Commander Tanvi Sharma. We bring greetings from Earth and look forward to establishing diplomatic relations with the galactic community." As the humans moved further into the chamber, Xerix noticed something alarming. "The gravity," he said urgently to his team. "Increase it immediately. It's set too low for them." "Actually," Ambassador Chen said with another smile, "this is quite comfortable. Earth's gravity is significantly stronger than what you've set here." The scientific team exchanged glances of astonishment. These humans had evolved in crushing gravity that would flatten most species, breathed corrosive gas, and withstood temperature extremes that would kill most intelligent life forms. "We have so many questions," Professor Nyleth said, her crystalline form vibrating with excitement. "As do we," replied Dr. Rodriguez. "We've wondered for centuries if we were alone in the universe. It seems the answer is a resounding no." He held out a small device. "We've brought information about our world, our species, and our history to share with you." As the diplomatic meeting continued, one thing became abundantly clear to Xerix and his team. They hadn't just discovered a new intelligent species. They had found something that would change the galaxy's understanding of life itself. Children of the Storm. The Grand Assembly Hall of the Galactic Confederation hummed with nervous energy as representatives from 200 different species gathered for the special session. Under the soaring crystalline dome, the massive amphitheater was filled beyond capacity, with many delegates forced to hover in anti-gravity fields above their designated sectors. Chief Xerix stood at the central podium, the research data from Earth projected in holographic detail around the chamber. Behind him, Ambassador Maya Chen waited calmly, seemingly unaffected by being the only human in a sea of alien dignitaries. "Distinguished delegates," Xerix began, his voice amplified throughout the vast space. "What we have discovered challenges everything we thought we knew about life, evolution, and planetary classification. The chief scientist of the Luminal Collective, a being composed of pure energy contained within a specialized field, pulsed with skepticism. Are you seriously suggesting we need to create an entirely new classification beyond Class 12? The system has served us for 12 millennia. The evidence is undeniable," Xerix replied, bringing up the atmospheric readings. "The oxygen levels alone would cause most of our species to combust spontaneously. The atmospheric pressure would crush standard environment suits. The gravity is nearly double what we consider survivable for long-term habitation." He gestured, and new data filled the air. Temperature swings would shatter most known life forms. There are regions where liquid water falls from the sky with enough force to punch through standard protection gear. The chamber erupted in murmurs as Ambassador Chen stepped forward. The human appeared tiny and fragile next to the various massive, armored, or energy-based beings that populated the assembly. "Honored representatives," she said, her voice surprisingly strong for such a small creature. "What you call extreme, we call Tuesday." A ripple of translator confusion swept through the hall before she continued. "Earth has shaped humanity through millions of years of evolution. The very conditions you fear are what made us who we are. She activated her own data stream, showing humans in various environments across their world, climbing frozen mountains, diving into crushing ocean depths, surviving in scorching deserts, and building cities in every hostile corner of their world. We don't just survive on our Deathworld, she continued. We thrive there, and we believe we have much to contribute to this galactic confederation. A High Chancellor, an ancient being of the Void Dwellers with skin like midnight studded with stars, leaned forward. What could beings from such a hostile environment possibly offer a civilization built on harmony and careful environmental balance? Ambassador Chen smiled. Perspective, Chancellor, problem-solving under pressure, adaptability, innovation born of necessity. She paused. And perhaps most importantly, an understanding of how to thrive in conditions that others find impossible. In the cycles that followed, humans began integrating into galactic society with remarkable speed. Their embassy on the Confederation capital world became a hub of activity as human specialists consulted on problems that had stumped the finest galactic minds for generations. Human engineers designed spacecraft capable of withstanding stellar conditions that had previously been considered unsurvivable. Human doctors brought fresh insights to xenobiology, having evolved on a world with more biodiversity than any 10 Confederation planets combined. Human diplomats mediated conflicts between species with incompatible biologies, their unique status as Deathworlders giving them a neutral standing. But not all welcomed these strange new beings. The humans are dangerous, insisted Chancellor Borix of the Hegemony Worlds during a closed council session. They evolved on a world of constant conflict and competition. Their history is riddled with warfare. Their biology is designed for violence. Dense muscles, reinforced bone structure, efficient respiratory systems, redundant organs. They are living weapons. That's an exaggeration, countered Ambassador Trellick of the Free Systems. They've proven themselves valuable allies. For now, Borix hissed. But what happens when they decide their interests don't align with ours? They can survive conditions that would kill our soldiers instantly. They can endure radiation levels that would melt our shielding. We should restrict their access to advanced technology and limit their expansion. The debate raged across the Confederation as more humans ventured into space, establishing outposts on worlds that other species considered uninhabitable, mining resources from planets too hostile for conventional operations, and pushing the boundaries of what was possible. Then the Void Crisis began. It started as anomalous readings in the Cygnus arm, strange energy patterns that defied standard analysis. Soon, entire star systems were experiencing communication disruptions. Planets reported bizarre gravitational fluctuations. Spaceships disappeared without trace. The Galactic Science Council determined that space-time itself was becoming unstable, creating expanding void zones where the laws of physics operated unpredictably. Conventional shield technology proved useless against the phenomenon. We're running out of options, announced High Chancellor Vox during an emergency session. The void zones are expanding exponentially. At current rates, they will reach core Confederation worlds within 60 cycles. Have we determined the cause? Asked Ambassador Chen, now a permanent member of the High Council. We believe it's a natural phenomenon, replied the chief scientist. A cascade failure in the quantum substrate of our region of space. Nothing in our technology can counteract it. The human was silent for a moment. On Earth, we have a saying, there are no bad conditions, only inadequate gear. What are you suggesting, Ambassador? Asked the Chancellor. Earth sits at the boundary of 3 major tectonic plates, in a region prone to earthquakes. Early in our history, these were devastating. But we didn't abandon our cities. We redesigned them. We built structures that could flex instead of break. We created systems that absorbed and redirected energy. She stood, addressing the entire council. Instead of trying to stop these void zones, what if we designed technology that could exist within them, adapting to the changing conditions rather than fighting against them? The council chamber erupted in debate, but ultimately, with disaster looming, they agreed to the human proposal. Earth dispatched its finest scientific minds, and within cycles, they had prototypes ready. Technology that didn't rely on the stable laws of physics, but rather could recalibrate instantly to changing conditions. The implementation was not without risk. Human pilots volunteered to test the new systems, venturing into void zones in specially modified craft. Many did not return, but those who did brought valuable data that refined the technology further. When the void zones reached the core worlds, the Confederation was ready. The human-designed adaptive systems allowed life to continue even as reality itself fluctuated around them. Over time, the phenomenon began to stabilize and eventually receded altogether. At the commemoration ceremony marking the end of the crisis, High Chancellor Vox addressed the assembled representatives. Today we honor not just the end of a threat, but a new understanding. For generations, we believed that life evolved toward ideal conditions, toward balance, stability, and harmony. We classified worlds based on how closely they matched these ideals. The massive being gestured toward the human delegation. Our friends from Earth have taught us otherwise. They showed us that adversity breeds resilience, that harsh conditions can forge remarkable adaptations, that what we considered a Deathworld produced beings capable of saving us all. Ambassador Chen stepped forward to accept the Confederation's highest honor, the Star of Preservation. "We don't see ourselves as exceptional," she said, addressing the vast assembly. "On Earth, there's a principle in biology. The more challenging the environment, the more diverse and resilient the adaptations that emerge. Perhaps the same is true on a galactic scale." She looked around at the hundreds of different species represented in the hall. "Every one of your worlds presented unique challenges that shaped your evolution, your technology, your perspective. Together, our diverse experiences and adaptations make us stronger than any single species could be alone." As the ceremony concluded, Chief Xerix approached the human ambassador. "You know," he said thoughtfully, "we've had to completely rewrite our planetary classification system." "Oh," Chen raised an eyebrow. "Yes, we no longer use the term Deathworld. Instead, we classify planets by the diversity of environmental challenges they present and the complexity of adaptations they might produce. And Earth." Xerix's frills rippled in what humans had learned was amusement. "Earth is now the standard by which we measure adaptive potential. The official classification is Cradle of Resilience, Type 1. So far, we haven't found another world that qualifies for that designation." Ambassador Chen smiled. "Give it time, Chief Xerix. The galaxy is a big place, full of impossible worlds waiting to be discovered." She looked out at the stars visible through the crystal dome overhead. "And I suspect that for each of those worlds, there are beings who simply call it home."